Okay, we can start. We want to consider open economy, which the equilibrium in the goods market can be expressed by using the following equation. We can call equation 1. In equation 1, we have that the consumption is a function of the net disposable income, minus the minus taxes, plus the level of investment, which is a function of um, the real income and the real exchange rate, the real interest rate, sorry, plus government expenditure, plus net export, which is a function of the internal income, the world income or foreign income, and the real exchange rate epsilon. So what we can say is that if there is an increase in the internal income of the gross domestic product, we have an increase in imports, so a decrease in net exports. If we have an increase in world income or foreign income, we have an increase of net of exports, so an increase in of net exports. What is the real exchange rate? The real exchange rate, epsilon, can be defined as the nominal exchange rate times foreign price divided by internal price. What does it mean? This means that E is the nominal exchange rate, and it is defined as the price of one unit of foreign currency in terms of national currency. This means that if we have an increase in the exchange rate E, this means an appreciation, a depreciation, because we need more national currency for one unit of foreign currency. If we have a decrease in the nominal exchange E, this means that we have an appreciation of national currency, because we need less national currency for one unit of foreign currency. But the real exchange rate is an index of competitiveness, because consider also the level of foreign price and the level of national price. So if we have an increase in epsilon, in the real exchange rate, this means that the prices, external price or foreign price expressed in national currency, in some sense are increase less than the national price. So we have an increase in competitiveness for our country. So this means increase in competitiveness. If we have and this means also real depreciation, sorry, of our currency. If we have a decrease in epsilon, in this sense we can observe a decrease in competitiveness, because this means that that goods produced in our country is less competitive than goods produced abroad. So this means that we can also put here a negative sign, or a positive sign, which means that if we have an increase in epsilon, we have an increase in competitiveness, so we have an increase in net export. On the other side, if we have a decrease in epsilon, we have a real appreciation, so this means that we have a decrease in net export. Now, in order to simplify our analysis, we can take here, as in the standard ISLM model, as exogenous internal and external price, so P star and P. We can also consider that P star over P can be set equal to 1. This means that epsilon will be equal to E. So the real exchange rate in this case is equal to the nominal exchange rate. If we consider this in terms of variation, we can also consider that the expectation inflation, internal inflation, is equal to 0. In this case, we can write equation 1 as equation 2, which is epsilon y equal to, so the production equal to consumption, which is a function of net of disposable income, plus the level of investment, which is a function of income, and a function of the nominal interest rate, because we have the expectation of inflation equal to 0, which means that the nominal interest rate is equal to the real exchange rate, plus net export, which is a function of y, world exchange rate, or the foreign exchange rate y, the foreign income, the national income and the foreign income, and the nominal exchange rate e. And we have also the sign, which are plus, because of increase in the nominal exchange rate under the assumption of constant internal foreign prices means an increase in competitiveness for our country, so an increase of net export. We have more export and less imports. If we have an increase in foreign income, we have also an increase in net export. If we have an increase in national income, we have a decrease in net exports, because we observe an increase of imports. Okay, now we can consider the so-called how we can derive the so-called uncovered interest parity, uncovered interest parity condition. In order to derive this condition, we can consider two areas in the world, for instance, the US and Euro area. In order to derive this condition, we have in the Euro area the interest rate for bond expressed in Euro is IT. The interest rate for bond expressed in US dollars can be written as I star. So if we our capital is €1, we can invest this €1 in the euro bond, so in a bond in euro, and we get 1 plus IT euro at the end of the year. The alternative is to invest this euro in US market, but first we have to convert this euro in US dollars, so we have to divide by the exchange, or the actual current exchange rate between USA dollar and euro, which is expressed as euro for each dollar. So this is our capital expressed in today in US dollar. We need to we can invest to using the interest rate in US, which is 1 plus I star. At the end of the period, this capital, this amount of our investment, should be converted again in euro. So we have to multiply for the exchange rate at the end of the period, which is an expectation. These two flows must be equal in equilibrium. So we have that these results must be equal to 1 plus IT. Because if we can't observe this equality, no one will have in his portfolio both European and US bonds. For instance, if we have that this is a condition in equilibrium, because through the exchange rate we will see there will be an adjustment, and this condition, also called arbitrage, no arbitrage condition, should hold. So we can write this equation in another way. In particular, this can be written as 1 plus IT equal to 1 plus I star, which multiply the expectation for an exchange rate at time t plus 1 divided by the exchange rate at times t. Again, we can write this equation as IT equal to I star plus at t plus 1 the expectation, the exchange rate for t plus 1, et plus 1 minus et divided by et. So we can write this equation using this is the uncovered interest parity condition. Uncovered interest parity condition. And what does it mean? It means that the European or the internal nominal interest rate must be equal to the external interest rate plus the expected change in the exchange rate. Now we want to show better what does it mean. Okay, we can write again the uncovered interest parity as the exchange rate at time t equal to the expectation of the exchange rate at time t plus 1 divided by 1 plus interest rate IT, the internal interest rate or interest rate in the euro area, minus the external exchange interest rate or the interest rate in US. This equation is very important because if we can start considering that the European interest rate is equal to the American exchange rate, US exchange interest rate. In this case, this means that the actual exchange rate is equal to the expectation of the exchange rate for the period. So in this case, given the expectation, so in this equation now we are considering given the expectation for the exchange rate on the next period, we have that the current exchange rate is equal to the expectation of the exchange rate in the next period. So we have no expectation of devaluation or appreciation of the exchange rate. Now, if we suppose that we have an increase in the interest rate, for instance in US, given the Federal Reserve monetary policies. This, according to this equation, means that the exchange rate today should increase. This means that because we have the interest rate of US or the foreign interest rate on the denominator, but with negative sign. So if we have an increase in the interest rate in US, we have also an increase in the current actual exchange rate. This means that we have a devaluation today on the exchange rate. But given that the expectation for the next period does not change, this means that the current exchange rate is smaller than the exchange rate on the next period. This means that we have an expectation of devaluation this is greater than the expectation. This is greater than the expectation, so we have an expectation of appreciation of the euro against US dollar. So if we have, for instance, we can start with the interest rate in the euro area equal to the interest rate in US equal to 5%. In this case, we have that the exchange rate doesn't change in our expectation. But if we have an increase of the US interest rate until 10%, this means that we, given the expectation, given the uncovered interest parity, we have an expectation of the evaluation of the US dollar against euro or equal to the difference between the interest rates, so equal to 5%. So if we write the uncovered interest parity, this is IT equal to I star plus AT plus 1 expectation minus ET over T. So if this is equal to 5%, this should be equal to 10%. This means that we have this expectation of devaluation of US dollar, so it's minus 5%, because we have an expectation of devaluation of US dollars. So this means that this is smaller than this. Now, if this is clear, I don't know if everything is clear at all. Okay, we have a problem, we have to delete the breakpoint, so we write again the main equation of our model. So we have the uncovered interest parity can be written as the current exchange rate is equal to the expectation in exchange rate for the period t plus 1 divided by 1 plus it minus I star. So this is the uncovered interest parity. And this means that if we have that the internal interest rate, so the euro interest rate is equal to the US interest rate, in this case we have that the exchange rate, current actual exchange rate dt is equal to the exchange rate t plus 1 the expected exchange rate. If we have, for instance, an increase in the interest rate in the US, this means that according to this equation, the exchange rate should increase. This means that we have an appreciation of US dollar or a depreciation in the euro against dollar, but given the expectation on the exchange rate on the next period, which doesn't change, we have that the current exchange rate is greater than the expectation of the exchange rate. This means that in this case we have an expectation of appreciation in the exchange rate. We can also consider the case of change of a reduction in the US interest rate. In this case, according to this formula, we have a decrease in the current exchange rate. This means that, given the expectation, we have an expectation of depreciation of the US dollars back to euro.